Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today's video is RBG. Justice Ginsburg passes 45 days from the election, flipping the script and the game board, right? Nice timing, Ruth. I know you were trying to hang on, but looks like, irony rules the day, as always, right? Gravity is what physics supposes is the force that makes all of the events in the universe sort of occur, this general coagulating force. I disagree. I think irony is the most powerful force in the universe because it really seems like things have a habit of happening right at the most ironic time. And, contrary to what people try on the surface, right, the universe, God, is always playing this game with us and just like, oh, you wanted that? Well, how about the opposite? Right at the most inopportune moment. Or, from another perspective, if you learn to be a lucky lad and, roll with the, deterministic and causal universe masquerading as a bunch of random events and probability, right, you can learn to have a good time and stop attaching yourself to certain outcomes in this physical world, because we can attach ourselves to the ultimate outcome, the ultimate positive outcome, the kingdom of heaven, the building of paradise here on earth in alignment with the laws and wills of God, or will, rather, singular, because there is really only just one will and one command, and it is to live as God, to live as God's son, to basically voluntarily follow those rules so that you don't have to have, a brute force, and inevitable consequence come crushing down on your head, right? The purpose of living in God's law is so that we can experience bliss. It is so that we can experience happiness. Because when we're killing each other and we're, raping each other and we're pillaging, there's really, the person who is pillaging or raping or killing, at any given moment, maybe in some, dark animalistic sense, that's the person who's enjoying that reality. But in reality, nobody really enjoys killing, even who basically, no, except for psychopaths, right? You don't enjoy harming other people unless you're a crazy person. And this is a small component of civilization, right? Less than 10% most likely, who are the true diehard, evil people, but they hold an outsized influence over this society because they take control of the levers of power. And so this is where we enter the conversation about the Supreme Court and the importance of the judiciary. And, as I've pointed out many, many times, you don't have to like all of Trump's tweets. You don't have to like everything that he's done. The sort of, wacky little, appeasements of gun control here and there, like the bump stock ban and a couple other things. But in general, the main brunt of his presidency, and one of its main achievements, has been through reforming the judiciary. It really was like Obama left like 100 or so open federal judge seats so that Hillary could appoint them, right? That was the plan. They were totally banking on Hillary winning. And this has so totally screwed up their plan to basically, to lose the sovereignty of this country and incorporate it through some great artificial reset into a, global superstructure, aka the New World Order. But wow, they really, a little, it's Murphy's Law, man. A little bit going wrong can cause just the whole system to collapse, right? Because now it looks like Trump as well as McConnell are going to rush through and try and get a justice confirmed in the next 40 days, or, at least before January 20th when the inauguration. But realistically, they're going to try and push it. They're going to try and end run this whole thing, because it definitely does galvanize the other side, right? Those who worship abortions and think it's the highest good and highest utility the world has ever provided to women, they're going to, this is the end for them. This is basically, blaring red lights, nuclear, air raid siren, right? This is an extinction level event for the left if it comes to pass. And again, Trump doesn't even have to nominate like a far right winger or anything. I mean, what is a far right winger but in the current paradigm of just a person who is a strict constructionist, who looks at the Constitution and doesn't see it as this nebulous Andy Warhol painting and living document that we can do whatever the hell we want with, but it actually was a set structure, and basically the things that needed to be changed, so we've, added some things, which some are probably, better and more beneficial to people than others, but realistically, there is always a need to have a path to change, but the 10th Amendment is the most important of them, that those powers which are not arrogated to the federal government are left to the states to decide. There are questions, universal legal moral questions that, we should have a defined answer for, but in general, it's not the purpose of the federal judiciary, the Supreme Court, to basically start just imposing, one-size-fits-all solutions on the entire country, such as Roe versus Wade, right? Again, for those who don't know, the what's her name, Roe, she, I forget what her actual real name is, but she actually became a staunch pro-life activist. I think she's still alive and she's still campaigning. She realized that it was not something good that she was fighting for, and she was being used, and this whole political ideology really disconnects people from their sense of humanity, because no sane or healthy or rational person will ever celebrate the killing of an unborn child, right? It's it's microbes if it's life on Mars. It's life on Mars if they find a bacterium, right? But it's just an inanimate fetus when it's actually a baby inside, the mother's womb. And again, it's all about deconstructing agency, of making people into basically automatons that are devoid of any sort of accountability. And, the sales pitch is that, you get to live however you want, man. You get to have any kind of sex you want, do any drugs you want. You can, destroy yourself and degrade yourself in any way you see fit. You just can't ever challenge the party, and you can't ever challenge the system or dare to think differently about, about how such powers are not actually of God and are not stable or sustainable. Because there's a reason that socialism has always failed. There's a reason that it always will fail. It's because it's mathematically impossible to succeed, right? Murphy's Law has a grand old time with things that are otherwise designed almost perfectly. That little part that's not almost, right? That's how you get your Challenger explosion, right? The little fuel line goes wrong and then the whole thing explodes. And, imagine then a system that is fundamentally built on mathematical idiocy and of a total abrogation of human nature, and thinking that people are just these blank slates who can be, have their behavior modified through, just conditioning. I mean, to the extent that they have people fixed and brainwashed and staring into the TV and addled on pharmaceuticals, and they're fat and unhealthy and just miserable people. Yes, they live in that fixed environment where they can condition their stimuli, condition their information, and thus elicit the desired response almost like clockwork. They do. The AI is already in control of those type of people who believe what the television tells them unequivocally, which is sad to say, pretty much most of the boomers that I know, and a fair amount of millennials. But again, we're not fighting for the majority. The majority doesn't matter. Except in the case of the Senate, it matters quite a bit, but we're fighting for basically enough people in the country to be fully active and aligned and self-realized so that they can actually take on that outsized role. And I would say that the beneficent and benevolent statesmen, the good sort of politician, to the extent that they exist, they're extremely rare, but I would maintain that some of them exist. I would consider Ron Paul, Dr. Ron Paul, to be one of those. I think he was a great politician. In the positive sense of the word, a statesman rather, but it's of someone who is I guess how Plato might say, the philosopher king, of someone who can take on that outsized responsibility and bear the burden of others, taking on that Christian aspect, right, of Christ, of basically, taking on the responsibility beyond yourself for the sake of building the kingdom of heaven, and for the sake of helping the children of God. which I would consider by default to be all of humanity, right? The various tribes of Israel, I would say, are analogous to the different, racial haplogroups and, soul groups that we see on the planet. But, that's just that's not anything I can necessarily back up in the Bible per se, because I haven't really delved into the Bible very deeply. But, it's a way to see the world as both united and separate. It's a way to basically model federalism, and I think that's why it's true that the United States is inevitably a Christian country, and in the quest to basically remove its Christianity from it and impose a statist moral relativism on it, which Ruth Bader Ginsburg was absolutely pinnacle and instrumental in enforcing for many decades, right? And a consistent opponent of the Second Amendment, consistently seeking to rewrite the law according to how she saw it in her personal philosophy, which of course was leftism. And, I'm not necessarily going to, speak ill of the dead and just bash on them, but I'm not the type of person who just instantly starts praising somebody the minute they died. You know what? John McCain was an asshole when he was alive. He's an asshole when he's dead. It doesn't really matter to me, because I don't see death as this, finality that I think that the materialists do. It's just a passing. And if you've lived a good life and a long life, death is nothing to be feared or to be shied away from. It's a glorious experience. And, we keep coming back over and over again, which is why it's funny that we think, oh, yeah, live for now. You only live once. And, it doesn't matter what you do, because, you're going to die in the end. And so just have fun, screw over whoever you want, do whatever you want, burn it all down. But it's then we keep coming back. And, even in the physical sense, our children keep having to inherit that world. And, basically either we don't care about our kids or we care about our kids. And, we can't care more about the program, the Matrix program, than about your own kids, right? And again, that's what a liberal parent is in the modern era. Again, I'll make accommodation to how things used to be back when I was a kid, because it was a different world. But a liberal parent today is a bad parent. You don't know what you're doing to subject kids to basically this program. And again, to teach young women, to teach girls that abortion is this moral good, this social, benevolent social program because it frees you from the tyranny of men. Do you realize how satanic this program is, and how fucked up you have to be in the head to think that this is an actual sane and rational philosophy? To think that basically murdering babies in the womb is somehow this powerful experience for enlightened women. You're neither powerful nor enlightened. You're a slave to your own, basically base desires, and basically eschewing any responsibility at any phase, and basically arrogating that responsibility to the state. Again, there are powerful women in the world. There are wonderful, brilliant women in the world, and they're conservative. And that's not like all conservative women are that, but basically all women who are brilliant, just like all men who are brilliant, eventually have to come to the conclusion that our society is ruled not by, brilliant people, but by midwits who follow a narrative, and who are spoon-fed this little story that doesn't actually have any backing, but it doesn't matter because these people don't actually look anything up. I get chastised about science from people who literally have never even taken the most cursory look at the underlying scientific base model and studies and evidence, right? It's just they take it as an article of faith. Global warming, vaccines, the gender narrative, all of this is just taken as if it's science, right? They say that it's scientific that gun control works. They say it's scientific that we can just make the economy better by just, basically printing money and just injecting it into, basically the economy. But it's all so ridiculous, and a person whose brain even starts firing and that light starts to come on just flickering a little bit will instantly see in the light that is cast this grotesque scenario in front of us of people who have no morality, who have no mind, who have no talent or benefit to the society in which they're supposedly serving, are basically ensconced in positions of power. They're basically an institutionalized parasite class. again, who we have mistakenly been calling the elite, because there is an elite of this planet. They are the people of God. They are the people who are so connected to reality, to the Creator and to creation, that basically they can perform miracles every single day like it's nothing. Again, to fulfill the Christian aspect. I have come not to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law. And so it is again in the fractal pattern. And so this is really tremendous to have, if we're considering, Chief Justice Roberts as a conservative, which is a dubious claim at best. But, if Trump goes forward with the supposed frontrunner, Judge Amy Coney Barrett of the 7th Circuit, I mean, she seems good to me. I think going with a Catholic woman is a good way to avoid all of the Kavanaugh thing, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to find any sexual misconduct or improprieties in, Ms. Barrett's, history. And so, ideally it would be a swift confirmation, and the left would further reveal itself, and the mask would further slip, and they'd reveal their disgusting, snarling, frothing faces, basically for all to see, of attacking a woman of immense moral character and stature, for the sake of my abortions. Again, I used to be pro-choice, and I'm not I'm not like a full fundamentalist, but I do believe that Roe v. Wade should be overturned. It is the responsibility of the states, not the federal government, to decide life and death matters of total moral questions. People deserve to have a modicum of independence in that regard. Georgia and California should be able to have different rules. California and Jefferson, the state of Jefferson, the future 51st state of Jefferson, should have its own rules separate from California. And, I would not vote to have, basically the right of abortions enshrined. I don't think it is a right at all. And again, there's situations where I'm not going to necessarily be an absolutist and say that I know all situations, but I can say that I know that's wrong, and that the people who celebrate it as a good are evil people. You can say that it is a necessary evil, but anyone who argues that abortion is a social good is a maniac and a psychopath. And I have no affiliation with them, no matter what they are in my family or friends. I don't want anything to do with you if you celebrate abortion. You're disgusting. And I would rather not see you ever again if you celebrate abortion. But again, that's a very different thing than arguing something as a necessary evil, right? I'm sympathetic to arguments about a necessary evil in the context of greater evils. But again, I don't often prefer to choose evil, even in a minor form. I believe that we can choose good. We can choose morality. We can choose enlightened behavior versus unenlightened, animalistic, just death behavior. And, again, it is a fundamental difference of worldview. It is embodied more clearly now than ever before between the two parties. And again, not all Republicans are good. There's still a lot of swamp creatures hanging out, and, they remain to be removed. But the fact is, we are on a very good arc and trajectory with taking over the conservative movement. Not Conservative Inc. necessarily. I don't think, necessarily Ben Shapiro will ever be on board with cutting aid to Israel for obvious reasons. But I think that the populist nationalism is not turning around, right? There's no coming back for neoconservatism. We can be friends with Israel. We can protect our allies and interests in the world, but we're not going to be the empire. We're not going to be the world police. And we're not going to basically sell out our country's system and intellectual property and, military prowess for the sake of defending other corrupt oligarchs and billionaires in other countries, such as was done and exemplified by Joe Biden, right? And Hunter Biden with Poroshenko and the whole $1.5 billion from China. And I mean, it's truly it is not just a campaign slogan to say that if Biden wins, China wins, and they basically will own him. Because, I mean, the fact that people think that a phone call to the president of Ukraine was a quid pro quo, but Joe Biden getting up on stage, televised, with the Council on Foreign Relations, and bragging about the fact that he got the Ukrainian prosecutor fired who was investigating his son's, basically the company on which his son was a board member, Burisma, totally corrupt, Ukrainian gas enterprise, with some very, very extremely seedy characters, almost like Bond villain level, who were involved in that enterprise. And the fact that people think that that's not an issue and that's just a foreign conspiracy theory, but the fact that Trump actually had a phone call with the president of Ukraine and basically asked for their cooperation and their help in investigating claims of corruption and basically treason within their own country. It's amazing, the inversion. It is truly amazing. And the fact that any liberal person who is of any intelligence or education whatsoever can fall for this nonsense is staggering. It again belies the midwit nature, the social program of people will sacrifice and give up their critical thinking for the sake of their social reality. And it is absolutely amazing, because there's lots of people, again, in my family who I thought were really intelligent people. And now I realize maybe they were intelligent back in the day and they've had a Joe Biden process and their brain is just turned into Swiss cheese, but people truly believe the most insane things. And it is because the media is telling them. Then the media is totally incoherent, but again, it's entrainment, it's hypnotism. It is, basically, yes, I'll take off my shirt and pants and put a slice of American cheese on my head. La, 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 la. It's like if you've ever seen a hypnotism performance, it's like it's amazing what the easily controlled will do when a state of suggestion is taken as a command. And that is exactly what people are doing, and on a mass scale. So, again, all we need to do is proceed in vigilance and to claim that victory, because we have basically the votes. We have essentially the situation to move forward. 70% of justices in the history of the United States essentially were confirmed in under 45 days. There's no real reason that we need to drag it out even more, unless, basically there's a whole bunch of bullshit like there was with Kavanaugh. And, so we'll see. I think that from what I've seen, I think Judge Amy Coney Barrett would be a good pick. I think it would be good to have someone who is religious on the bench, basically, who has that morality within them. Again, I'm not a Catholic, and I have my problems with the Catholic Church. But, again, there's a general Christian morality that I now realize is absolutely essential. And what all the atheists, such as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, have utterly failed to comprehend, or they do comprehend it and they're actively lying, but I don't have enough information to paint RBG as a full-blown Satanist. I think, basically like many other atheist commies, basically they're deluded. They're genuinely deluded, and it's born of a deep-seated trauma and disconnection with the Creator. And so if we can maintain that, if we can raise the new generation to have that connection, and we take them out of the schooling system, we homeschool, and we, become sovereign, homesteading, off-grid. And we have the air support of a 6-3 conservative, Supreme Court. And also, who knows, maybe in Trump's second term, there's going to be, even more openings. And so, again, this is not just 10, 20 years. We're talking about half a century, potentially, of fighting back, holding back the forces of evil and the forces of communism as a result of many cases that had been held back and that there were not rulings on because of Roberts. Cases related to the Second Amendment, right? National reciprocity for concealed carry. The end of magazine bans, the end of all this just little pissant Karen, bullshit. It is truly an amazing time. And I hope you guys are excited as well, because grab your popcorn. We're not done yet. You thought 2020 was boring? We're just getting started, my friend. And 2021 is going to be a lot of fun, too. So that's my video today. Hope you guys are having a good one. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.